It's your boy Mello TMG back with another one. A little bit different this time. Gonna do my recap for the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight. What a fight it was. Thankfully, I stayed up for that one. It was worth it. I'll do it all over again because it was one of the best fights I've ever seen in live. I was about to say in the flesh. I wasn't there like I was there for the AJ and Usyk fight. I had to watch this one on TV. But yeah, it was a great fight. I mean, it had everything you would want. Maybe technically it wasn't on the level you would want for a fight of that magnitude. However, I had literally everything else. I mean, for those people who were living on the rock for the last few weeks, obviously Fury won a knockout via the 11th round. Knockout in the 11th round via a right hook. Just quickly, first and foremost, I had Fury winning rounds 2. Obviously, Fury the knockdown. 5 was a toss up. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was I believe I had a knockdown in 10 and 11 as well. Wilder, I had him obviously winning round 1, the 2 knockdowns in round 4, and 5, like I said, was a toss up. But first and foremost, I'll start with Deontay Wilder, the loser. He came in at 238 pounds. With his loss, he moves down to 42, 2 and 1. Should be 42 and 3 because he lost 3 times to 3, but hey ho, what do I know? Yep. Wilder tried to be different, at least in the first few rounds of the fight. Well, sorry, the first round of the fight. He tried a body attack. He was jabbing to the body. He was using some feints, which is good for Wilder. But essentially, by the end of the second round, he essentially went away from it, especially when he started to get clocked. As an old saying, the old adage is, everyone has a plan to get punched in the face. He got punched in the face, ended round 1. His plans started to alter. And then by the end of the second round, his plans were pretty much gone. But he was setting up the right hand a lot better. Especially that's how he managed to land after getting knocked down and saved by the bell in round 3. That's how he managed to sucker Fury into the punch round 4, where he sent shockwaves down Fury's body. I mean, that's how hard the guy hits. People say he's the hardest puncher of all time. That's not true. However, he's right up there. He's in the debate. I mean, for me, resume matters. If you're just knocking out bums, then or old people, then yeah, fair enough. Everyone's resume would seem to have like a 90% plus knockout ratio. But that's a story for a different matter. But yeah, after the 4th, he was done physically. He looked wobbly. He looked shaky. And he shot his load in the early rounds, which was probably part of his tactic to try to get through out there. And it nearly worked. He nearly got through out there in round 4, but when he faces top elite heavyweights who have different levels, different tempos, and different places they can go to and reach, boy, it's mad. I mean, his hands were low from the 7th round due to his fatigue because Fury was wearing on him, using his body weight, putting him in headlocks. Boy, it was crazy. It was a masterclass. His hands were low. That's why I was able to get clocked even more. The doctors looked and checked up on him before round 9, so end of round 8 before round 9 to see if he wanted to go. I mean, there was a big debate and controversy the last fight when Mark Brilliant threw in the towel. Wilder says, what's got on his shield, which is what he did, and he proved to the world he has an immense heart. But yeah, I think even in the 7th round, it seemed like all his steam in his punches had gone, but he still was able to get through his attention. I mean, I could say power was the last thing to go. He might have hurt his hand as well in the 7th round, but like I say, he does have a lot of heart. He went out on his shield. But one thing I would say about Wilder, he is the best desperation fighter I've ever seen. Or one of the best. I mean, he looks so desperate. Maybe it's part of his game plan. I mean, he looks so desperate, looks so vulnerable, looks fatigued. Then boom, he just explodes and knocks you out. I mean, and that's what he's been able to do. He done that to Luz Ortiz, especially in the first fight. And I believe, if I remember correctly, parts of the second fight. But all in all, in adversity, Wilder reverted back to type. And this lack of skills, they weren't paying the bills, especially the bill that Fury was charging. The bill that Fury charged was an exorbitant fee. Hence why Fury was able to, cash in on Wilder and get the victory. But to be fair, Fury has been boxing since basically out of the womb. He comes from the lineage of boxers. That's all they know. That's what they've been brought up to do. And Wilder, he started boxing at age 19, 20. He won a bronze medal at the Olympics. And Wilder's a supreme athlete. I took up boxing late. Who knows if Wilder took up boxing 5 years ago, because that's when Canelo took up boxing, I believe 15. No, sorry, that's when Canelo started his professional career, if I remember correctly. But if Wilder took up boxing 5 years ago, 15, 12, 13, I believe that's the time when Sugar Robinson and Ali took up boxing. The story could have been very, very different. Really could have been. But now into the victor, the champion, the lineal champion, that comes from the lineage of fighters. His father was a fighter. His father was a fighter, and I'm pretty sure his father's father, his great grandfather was a fighter too. I mean, that's what they know. The Gypsies, they brought and bred, they bred on this stuff, and Fury is the modern day example of that. But he moves up to 32-0-1. It should be 33-0. He came at his heaviest as well, 277 pounds, which I believe is like 4 pounds heavier than he did last time. But yeah, Fury's 1-2 at the end of the first round. After Wilder came out with a jab to the body, Fury's 1-2 changed the course of the fight. And his boxing IQ, knowledge and know-how, thanks to, basically been boxing straight from the womb, is so high. His footwork is exceptional for a man and especially a boxer of those dimensions, his weight and height. He closes distance expertly. His head movement, his feet, a tiny bit off, particularly his head movement, and that's why he got careless and saved by the bell in the fourth round, because he walked onto a punch. Lack of head movement, came up in a straight line. He got clocked by a right hand straight punch, which is basically Wilder's best punch. Bit of controversy, slow counts. But by my count, it was 9 seconds on the second knockdown. And he was up by then, so I'm not really sure. But yeah, Fury, his second win, his powers of recovery are elite and some of the best you'll ever see. 2 knockdowns in round 4, came back round 5, took over the fight again, and that was that. I mean, also as well, Fury, he does ride punches exceptionally well. Like, he'll be twisting his neck when he sees a punch very late they can't get out of the way of. So just to, soften the impact and the collision force of that punch. So Fury does that exceptionally well. And he rolls punches like no other. Fury does have it all aside from KO power, real KO power, destructive KO power, like a Wilder or an AJ has. But like I say, his IQ is so high, he's so mentally engaged into and so mentally astute when it comes to the tactical side of boxing. He utilized all his advantages like a pro, like a real professional, like his weight. He wrestled Wilder, out-wrestled Wilder, drained Wilder's energy, took him up into the deep waters and drowned him. That's essentially what Tyson Fury did. However, as much praise as Tyson Fury is getting right now, people are asking, is he the greatest heavyweight of all time? Some people saying he's up there, pound for pound, regardless of weight, all-time great. However, even though Fury, for me right now, is the best of the generation, because he opened up the division by defeating the 10-year undefeated champ in Klitschko, and he's even though he's never defended his belts until now, but he's reinforced that by defeating, in my opinion, 3 times. Then another top 3-4 heavyweight in Wilder, obviously the others being Joshua and Usyk, but he's defeated one of those guys, so he's up there for sure. However, how much credit, this is a question for you guys to think about, how much credit do we actually give, and shout out Sam Obaseki Oba for bringing this up, how much credit do we actually give Tyson Fury for basically beating the same man 3 times, who, in my opinion, was overhyped and overblown because his resume stinks? His best victory is Luis Ortiz, is a 50-year-old man who pretends to be 40 or 10 years younger. That's how the Cubans do in the boxing circuit. But how much credit do we actually give him? Because, like I said, Klitschko, fair enough. Wilder, fair enough. But you beat this guy 3 times, so how much credit do we actually give you for this victory? And all 3 times, they're pretty much clear victories. I mean, aside from the knockdowns, fair enough. You proved to us you can get up for knockdowns, but everything else, they were clear victories. I mean, you are just that much more skilled and have more ability and heart than Wilder. You beat him in all facets apart from maybe power and explosive speed. That's about it. But yeah, that's just something for you guys to ponder on for sure. Furthermore, trainers make a difference, and this is where Rob McCracken has hindered AJ. But Malik on both sides, Malik and Sugar Hill, they've done a great job. And Malik, they're keeping it real. They're able to reach and connect with their fighters in times of crisis. But yeah, Malik was giving them great, just giving them the real deal. I mean, before the end of the fourth round, he was saying you're getting lackadaisical, you're getting lazy, your footwork, your head movement. Again, after the sixth, he reiterated and reinforced this. And again, after the eighth round, he was connecting with his fighter. Wilder was understanding what Malik was saying. Of course, Wilder was shot, he wasn't able to win that fight. But Malik was still had an impact, in my opinion, on his fighter, a profound impact, in my opinion, on his fighter. On the other hand, Sugar Hill Stewart, he displayed it point and blank to Fury. He said, get your jab working, big dog, and shoot the right hand down the middle, the 1-2. Because Fury was getting away from that. When he got back into that, that's how he closed out the fight. And Sugar Hill also said, only the big dogs pull it out late in the fight. Only the big dogs. I came from a puppy to a big dog. Shout out Dame Lillard, Dame Dollar. Only the big dogs pull out the bag late. He resonated with his charge. Something that Rob McCracken can't do. That's what Sugar Hill Stewart was able to do. So it's crazy. But yeah, statistically speaking, before we close out, Tyson Fury dominated the stats. He outlanded Deontay Wilder 150-72, more than double the output or punches landed. And in total, 114 of those were power shots. That's mental. And it's the most ever landed against Wilder, I believe, in both categories. So overall punches and power shots. He took that boy to the cleaners. And he just wiped him out, essentially, bit by bit. Death by 1,000 cuts, but, maybe death by 200 cuts. But yeah, rather death by 150 cuts. How about that? But saying that brings me on to another point. Wilder received a lot of pain, a lot of damage. But you have to be able to take your licks. And this is something where I criticize AJ. I don't know if AJ can take his licks and bounce back. For sure, I mean, boy, it's this result, it didn't do well for AJ because both of those fighters came up with their reputations basically enhanced. And AJ's reputation is tanked, so it'll be interesting to see how he does in a rematch. But yeah, Tyson Fury, one of the greatest, the greatest of his era right now. Is he one of the greatest of all time? The thing that makes it difficult, especially in heavyweights rather, because Tyson Fury is 6'9", and I believe the greatest heavyweight of all time, Ali 6'3", Joe Louis 6'1", they're like 220. I believe Joe Louis was even less, but he fought in the 30s, I believe. I believe Joe Louis was about max 200 pounds, maybe even 180. Can these guys get off their game against a guy that's so big? I mean, it's playing devil's advocate. This is fantasy dreaming right now, but these are things we need to consider. I mean, in my opinion, Fury would be a nightmare for any fight in heavyweight history, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Fury done his thing. Fury retains his belts, that being a WBC and a Lineal Heavyweight Championship. He's still the Lineal champion, so we'll see how he goes from here. Hopefully, Dylan White able to get his chance against Fury. If he comes through the Otto Wallin fight, that's supposed to be this Saturday. So we'll see. And then hopefully AJ, if he's able to avenge his loss to Usyk, I'll be there at the stadium again to see AJ Fury. I'll pay top dollar for the floor seats. But it's your boy, Mellow TMG, Risers and Fallers. Like I said, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube. Follow us on all socials. But I'll be on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you listen to us audibly. Apple Podcast, Spotify. It's your boy, Mellow TMG. I'm out.